How's it going, guys and geeks? Welcome to the Geekritique show, or welcome back to those of you who are subscribed to our channel. We are going to be talking about Star Trek: The Next Generation. My name is Dakota.
And I'm Jen.
And after a good, 3 years of on and off watching of the series, we finally made it through. And not for lack of enjoyment, because we really liked everything that we saw. There were some duds in there. But, for the most part, I think we can both say...
I loved it. I really did. I thought it was great.
The experience as a whole was so pleasant. It was so eye-opening. It's such a good show. It's such good TV. And by the end of it, the last couple episodes, we kind of watched almost in a single sitting, just because you can kind of feel the show wrapping up, loose ends.
Yeah, it's just hard because it's like you get so attached to the characters and it's tough to let go. So for me, I kind of wanted to procrastinate the ending a little bit, but the story keeps pushing forward. So we want to keep watching. So it's this kind of tough in between where it was like I wanted to wait, but it was great at the same time.
The show kind of ended some characters' arcs in ways I wasn't expecting.
Totally, yeah.
And that's partially because we haven't seen the interim films between The Next Generation and Picard, but we did watch Picard while we were on season 5 or so of The Next Generation, and that kind of...
Yeah, I still haven't seen the film where Data dies.
Yeah, Nemesis.
And I know he dies because 50 people told me, and Picard also kind of told me, so...
The trailer for Picard kind of explained it.
Yeah.
Commander Data sacrificed his life.
Oh, well, never mind.
These past few years,
I shouldn't have watched this! What the hell? The trailer for Picard explained it, but also a bunch of people mentioned it as well, so it was
if you want to see her reaction to that trailer where she realizes that Data dies, you can click this.
Data's my favorite character. I was devastated. I shouldn't have watched it. In everybody else's defense, I guess, it was super dumb of me to watch it, but I did anyway, so whatever.
We filmed you on the last episode, our last viewing, All Good Things, doing the intro to The Next Generation.
I did do that.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. The last time.
I just love the show so much.
It was so fun. Whenever you hear Patrick Stewart with that iconic intro, you just have to, repeat it. Or just sing along or talk along.
Space, the final frontier.
Yeah.
And now, too, we're watching the original series also now, but it's not the same for me, which I know is so backwards and weird for people.
Right, it's kind of backwards nostalgia.
Yeah, most people think of William Shatner first and then Patrick Stewart, but for me, when I don't hear Patrick Stewart's voice and then the music in harmony with him, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and the intro to the original series, the song is it starts with the same notes, but the after that, the song is completely different from The Next Generation.
Totally. Version. And then so I have a habit of doing this and I've done it with other shows too in the past, where I say this song or, in this case, just words along with the actor. And with William Shatner, it doesn't even slightly match up, which is very frustrating.
Right.
Because I know technically the words, it's only a couple of them different, but it's so different.
Yeah, instead of where no one has gone before, it's where no man has gone before.
Which isn't a huge difference, but...
Yeah. For those of you who are returning to the channel, you might notice that our backdrop is different. We've totally revamped our background, and I'm so excited because I love the new set. I almost feel like we should be filming this on our Star Trek wall.
That's true, actually.
Yeah, but...
but there's a window there, so it makes the lighting kind of weird.
The lighting's always weird on
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so it is what it is. What are we drinking?
We are drinking... It's actually a very expensive drink when you think about it. It's tequila and pomegranate juice, but it's Patron, which is a very expensive tequila, and pomegranate juice, which is a very expensive juice, a slice of orange, and a slice of lemon.
The lemon and orange, I'm assuming, weren't expensive, right?
No, they were just normal lemons and
oranges.
oranges.
Okay. You mentioned Data as your favorite character. Like, if you could name, like, your top 3 from Star Trek The Next Generation, who would they be? And why, if you have answers?
Well, there's Data.
Right.
There's Captain Picard.
Mm-hmm.
And Beverly Crusher, I think.
Beverly. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, she's a fantastic character.
I really love
too.
her. I think she's, like, super, super intelligent, human at the same time.
She's super empathetic.
She's driven in unexpected ways. It's not like she has to
Right.
prove herself. Like, when she decided she wanted to kind of, like, up her... I don't know how you would say that, but basically she wanted to be, like, qualify for captain sometimes.
Right.
I don't know what you call it. She didn't do it to prove herself to anyone. She just kind of thought, I want to push myself.
Right.
She didn't have anything else going on, and she just thought, I need to grow. I love that.
So, how do you feel that she grew over the course of the series?
I like the way that her and Deanna's relationship grew, I guess.
Right.
It's like an unexpected thing, but I think that
doing,
their
like, the
friendship,
workout.
they would work out together and kind of talk
Yeah.
about guys or, whatever is going on in their life. I guess they didn't pass the Bechdel test, technically, because whenever they were together, they talked about guys, but I think that's kind of cute, like, that they were, like, they're so different, like, she's super sciencey and Deanna's super emotional, but they can meet together in the middle and
Right.
talk about stuff. And I love Deanna Troi as well. I think she's a great character also.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But Beverly Crusher, I think, they kind of did her dirty a little bit sometimes, where, like, she fell in love with a whole guy that was, like, controlling her bloodline and her family. That was kind of weird. But then, like, the next episode, somebody fell in love and she was like, I can't relate to that. I thought that was kind of dumb, but...
Yeah, there were some issues that I had with... Pretty much everyone had that one episode or other that was just like, it didn't fit with their story arc, but you kind of understood them better for it in a way.
Yeah.
I think with Beverly, I liked how she went from just this she was always a nurse on the show, except for I think the second season. She left for a bit. She came onto the show as like a mother and a nurse and developed into a good friend of a bunch of people on the show.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important. I love the fact that she eats with Picard at breakfast every single day. That's such a Picard thing to do, to have a friend like that. It's so fun.
And I love her and Picard's relationship, where it's like, they see that they could have a romantic relationship. They see that that's something that they both kind of, in a way, want, but they both know better. I like when you have emotions, you acknowledge them, you know that they exist, but then you choose the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, just having emotions isn't like a crime. It's just a matter of making, the correct choice. And I admire that in both characters.
We mentioned...
And I like that they can be friends still, despite that. It's not like, oh, we have feelings for each other, we can't be friends. It's like, they find a way to be friends. That's cool.
You mentioned Deanna Troi and her relationship. What do you feel was her growth or other for this series? I really liked how in the first couple seasons they kind of just hinted at a past relationship with her and Riker. There was always a familiarity there, but they were very close friends regardless. For whatever reason, there was something between them, and we only found out later it was because Riker decided he was going to choose career over relationship. And that sucks, but it is a realistic thing that happens, especially when you have like a business-oriented people. And Riker's definitely like a career man.
It's kind of weird to think of Riker as like choosing that, because he seems kind of cheeky and flirty, but he does very much care about his career. And I think that's what I love about Star Trek, is that all of them are the best that the Enterprise has to offer, and the Enterprise is one of the best ships out there.
Right.
So it's like we're literally
yeah.
seeing the best of the best, and they all have to make sacrifices to get to the position that they get to.
Right.
So when you hear of Riker, choosing his job over Deanna, you're like, oh my god, how could he do that? But then you think, oh well, he is number 2 on or number 1 technically on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I guess that's what he had to do what he had to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to think about. As far as Deanna's growth, it's not necessarily, that's what I like, the arcs aren't like they started here but they ended here. It's not necessarily like
it's a growth
huge
of a
differences. She just gets more resolved in her ways, more strong in herself and confident. And that's kind of human growth. That's the way that we all grow. We don't necessarily like change careers 5 times or something crazy like that. It's just you get more comfortable and more confident in yourself. And that's what makes this show so great, is you see the characters do that in their own roles in the Enterprise.
One unique thing about Deanna's story arc was her relationship with Worf in the last season. We see Worf kind of visit an alternate dimension where he is able to see a life with Deanna, one that he may not have thought was possible previously. And when he goes back to the real timeline, he decides that he's going to pursue that. And he does, and by the end of the series, they're still together. And Riker is still... you can tell he's not okay with it, but he's not against it. He wants them both to be happy. They're both his friends. And Worf as a character, I think, was one of my favorites. I'd say he's one of my top 3. I would say Data, Picard, and Worf are my top 3 favorites.
Wow, not very feminist.
Worf is the ultimate feminist.
He does love strong women.
Worf loves strong women. I thought the exploration of the Klingon Empire in this series was absolutely fantastic. I love the culture that they were able to give that angry race. They're just such a cool species, and I like how Star Trek kind of pinpoints like one alien species per series that they're going to mainly focus on. And with the flagship Enterprise, they were going to use the Klingons, and Worf was that window into that world. Even though he was raised by humans, he's still Klingon at heart. And it was very cool to see that culture evolve through his personal beliefs and how that intersected with Starfleet's beliefs.
And how he kind of made compromises to form a balance.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. He always wanted to do right by both sides. It was almost like him trying to separate religion and state, almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually. So I took one of those quizzes online for like, what kind of Star Trek character would you be? And I got a Klingon, and I was really shocked at first. But then the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Like, I have a wrinkly forehead and a short temper. And
you don't have a wrinkly forehead?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it can really wrinkle if I try it. Like, check that out. It's super wrinkly.
She's got those ridges.
The mean ridges. And I have you don't see it online that much. I have a very short temper. You should see me in traffic. It is insane.
I can't wait to show her Voyager, because she is B'Elanna to a T, like the half human, half Klingon character.
I don't know her.
You fit her character very well, actually.
I have a very, very, very short temper. And it's not something that I'm proud of. It's not like, hey, I'll beat you up. I want to change that, but it's just the way I am. And when I saw that I'm a Klingon, I thought, yeah, that's right. And I started seeing myself in Worf, very much so.
One of the best things about the finale, and I know that we're talking about the show as a whole with this review/discussion, but one of the things that I loved about All Good Things was its interpretation of Data at different points on the timeline. And we had the present timeline where Data was how we kind of know him as today, but they also jumped 7 years into the past, and it was a very fresh Data. It was rigid, and you kind of had those memories of like when you first started the series, and he was just like he didn't understand like certain phrases. His relationships with everyone was very blunt and just broken, or there was no relationship there yet. The show bridges those 2 points so seamlessly that you don't even recognize that Data's changing at the rate that he is. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a 7-year difference, but
it is very subtle.
It's like someone whose first language isn't English now, and then 7 years of working with this person, you don't notice that their English is getting markedly better, But if you were to go back and watch videotapes of them 7 years ago, it would be very shocking, you know? And it's kind of like that with Data, and I love that he's basically the Pinocchio character, trying to find his own humanity. One of the things I really love about Data's overall story arc, and this is a theme that pretty much permeates throughout all of Star Trek, or at least all of Gene Roddenberry based Star Trek, is the idea of like you're always trying to attain to humanity. And Gene Roddenberry, you could tell just the philosophy of the show understands that very well. At the end of the day, you still need characters to act or to try to attain some level of humanity so that you can find meaning and enjoyment as the viewer. And with Data especially, he's a Pinocchio character. He's always trying to be human. That's his greatest goal in life, at least android life, you know? He just wants to attain that level of conscious thought that like makes him like humans. You have characters like that in at least every Star Trek show that I've seen up to this point. You have characters like Spock, who's a human Vulcan hybrid, but he tends to lean more heavily on his Vulcan ancestry in terms of his emotional resonance. But throughout the series, you start to realize just because he's hiding or he's minimizing his emotional touch on the emotional spectrum, he's still a very human character with very human qualities. And that's the very same thing with Data, but to a different degree, because he's an android, he's a robot who's trying to attain what he believes would be perfection, which would be to just be human.
And it's so interesting because as humans, like, we would love to be an android, right? You would love to have all of this humanity drawn out of you and just be like, yeah, all of my decisions are clear cut. Everything that I do is based on facts. We would love that. I would personally love that. I would love if all my decisions that I made were perfectly defined for me by fact or fiction, right?
There are qualities that Data has that like you want to emulate.
Yeah, you would love that.
He's super fast. He can calculate things.
But he
really
doesn't
quickly.
see it that way. He wants to be human. And I think the fact that he's trying to figure out his own humanity is the most human thing of all, because when we're going through life, we're trying to define ourselves always. It's the story that we tell, it's the story of who we are. And we're trying to figure that out by, defining our path in this, huge story that's going on. And Data does that by trying to figure out how to be human. He does the most human thing that we all do by trying to be human. It's just the most ironic thing ever. And it's fantastic, and I love him. He's my favorite character.
There's a few characters we haven't really touched on yet that I want to talk about. Let's start with Wesley Crusher. He started on the show as a young kid and kind of on again, off again, jumped onto the show. And
yeah, why though? Because the actor thought he was better than after Stand By Me.
Perhaps Will Wheaton did. I don't know. I
Freaking Star Trek is the best thing that could ever happen to that boy, and he should have been proud of where he came from.
Yes.
Sorry, I have very strong opinions about
do you like the character?
As someone who grew up on, like, Stand By Me, literally Stand By Me was in heavy rotation growing up. My family was not into, like, space or anything to do with that. They didn't like Star Wars or anything. But I just think, how ungrateful. You should have stuck with Star Trek. But yeah, I think as a character, does he grow moderately? I guess.
Unfortunately, he grows to be
kind of a dick.
More annoying, definitely.
Yeah.
He grows to be arrogant. He grows to be angsty, which, I guess
he's literally handed the best recommendations in Starfleet. He is handed everything that rich elite kids get handed.
Even
and
more
what does
so,
he do?
Because he actually has the experience to back it up on the
Yeah.
Enterprise. He literally is on the bridge of
intelligent.
the Enterprise for like 3 seasons straight. And then he kind
goes
of throws
off
it away.
into it. We don't know where he goes.
Well, he did get a better opportunity.
No, did he?
I think
Better.
For him, for whatever reason, he believed whatever he was doing was beneath him, that he could do more. So that's when the Traveler came and said, yo, what's up? Let's go.
Okay.
Hop in.
So let's talk real talk. When you think that the best of Starfleet is beneath you, who are you? Who are you?
Wesley Crusher.
Oh, I'm the best that NASA has to offer. Here you go, here's a job. I'd be
SpaceX.
lucky to get a job at, like, a normal place. Like, my god, I'm still in college. A normal, like, good job, I'd be super happy. The best that NASA has to offer, I'd be honored.
Consensus, we're not huge fans of Wesley's story arc.
Yeah, no, I think he turned out to be... I think it's, like, cool, but the problem is we don't see the byproducts of his labors. We don't see any good coming from it in the future. It's like he just disappears to this, like, one random place.
Right.
Alright, cool. I mean, I
don't know if he shows up in the movie.
I know it's supposed to be some kind of, like, parallels of, like, Native Americans. I love Native Americans, but we don't see anything... We don't see him making growth, I guess, and that's what's frustrating. If he showed up in Picard, and it was like, look, all these works that I did.
There might be movies that he shows up in. I'm not sure.
That's true, actually. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll hold off our...
If he shows up in the movies, just say something like, to be determined in the comments.
Or just spoil it. We've got enough spoiled already.
No.
Okay. Speaking of Wesley Crusher, let's jump into the man of the hour, Jean-Luc Picard.
Jean-Luc Picard.
Because he kind of took Wesley under his wing a little bit. Wasn't necessarily a father figure to Wesley, but he definitely kind of filled that role of a mentor for Wesley. Someone for him to look up to.
And someone to look down on him when he was being a jackass. Yes, thank you.
Let's talk about him and not Wesley for a little bit. How do you feel that he changed or his story arc became better or more interesting throughout the series?
I think that he started realizing that his priority wasn't necessarily Starfleet and more about him and his own moral compass. I think that Jean-Luc Picard is a very dedicated man, and that's what's great about him. He is who everybody should be. Like, he's great. I think he's...
I don't think that everyone should try to be Jean-Luc Picard.
I think so. I think that if you're... Whatever hodgepodge of life you're in, you should try to, like, be the best at it. He had an objective, and he completely went for it his entire life.
Right.
I think that everybody should do that. If you're a tattoo artist and you think, I want to be the best tattoo artist in the world, you freaking Jean-Luc Picard that. You just go for it.
But the counterpoint to that was, because he did that, he alienated a lot of the people in his life that could have meant something to him, namely his family. Sure, they wanted something totally different from him, something that kind of went against... It's almost the Dumbledore character type. You finally get to know the siblings and the family struggle, and you realize that wasn't all there. And then that kind of puts a crack into the character that you love. And it kind of shows you that because this character has chosen to focus on career over family, everything else has kind of fallen by the wayside. And that's why he's a middle-aged man with no wife to call his own, no child.
But would we ever have seen him change what he has for what he doesn't?
No, that's...
No, exactly. That's his choice in life.
Absolutely, that's his choice.
Even
but that
when
doesn't
we
mean
had
he's
the choice,
perfect character.
No, but I'm not saying he's the perfect character. I'm just saying he's great, and I would like to be like him, or anybody else who wants to be like him can be like him. I just think, even when he meets his own son and he thinks, wow, this is what is missing from my life, I still don't think he would have chosen to sacrifice the path that he had forged over his son.
One of my favorite Jean-Luc Picard episodes, probably my favorite episode period, is The Inner Light, where he's given the opportunity to live the life that he never would have. He's given an agricultural society to live through from the age that he currently is on the Enterprise till literal death. And he gets to build a family in this alternate world, or at least live the life that some other person lived thousands and thousands of years ago. And that just kind of, you can tell after that fact, after he's brought back to the present, after he's brought back into his own mind and body, he realizes that there is something missing in his life. And that's what his flute symbolizes. In my opinion. I'm probably off to some degree, but in my opinion, that choice made him lose a part of, or a potential future of his. And I think that was... that episode was hugely pivotal to his storyline, and it was brought up several times throughout the course of the final season, if I remember correctly. And I think that's the case because of the choices he's made prior to that, and how that, intersects with his current life.
I like too, though, that he didn't let something just like emotions kind of take over him after that point. There were several women, like there was one girl particularly that there was like a whole episode about how she was like his soulmate, but then she chose career over, her life with him, and he accepted that. And then with Beverly, it was the same thing. I think it was Beverly who decided it was she would rather the friendship over. But he accepted that. He didn't. Yeah. He didn't pursue a life with any woman. If Jean-Luc Picard walked into 10 Forward, where's this going? He could pick frickin' anyone. That guy could get any lady. Like, I'm sorry, he's a gem in the rough. He could get so many ladies. But he kind of stayed true to, if I'm going to pick someone, it's going to be somebody that I really want to spend the rest of my life with. And I thought, that's great. If he found someone and settled down, that would be great too. But I like that he didn't lower his standards just to kind of like meet society's expectations. I just want to counterpoint all of this by saying the character's flaws. Jean-Luc Picard has flaws. Yeah, totally. His flaws don't make him a bad character. They actually make him a human character. They show kind of like what this path eventually leads. And it's a very fulfilling life that he leads. Yeah. That's not to say that he doesn't. But it's not the life that maybe you would like to lead or someone else would like to lead. And it's so interesting going down his path as this captain of a ship that has adventures every single day in the middle of nowhere. And it's so cool. But I think that he's such an interesting character because of the fact that his flaws, his insecurities to a certain extent are like partially define who and what he does, Yeah. He's still a very strong character, and I love his hobbies. If I could be an archaeologist in space, that'd be great. But and I like that his position isn't everything. He has the best position that basically Starfleet has to offer. He's kind of a legend, but he still wants more. He just wants kind of the thing that so many other people have, and that's really great. The scene that summed up his character so perfectly was the last scene of the show, where he decided he was going to go play poker with the rest of the crew. Yeah. And totally. You realize, wow, he's fit with these characters for years. You know that he's friends with these people. He's had drinks with them in 10 Forward. He's, taken them on away missions. He's manned the Enterprise with them at his side. But for whatever reason, he's never sat down to play poker with them. And I think that was a conscious effort on the part of the showrunners, and that was so genius because we finally got that moment of something that we didn't even realize we were missing. Just his interactions on his downtime with the crew. And we got a little bit of that with him and Beverly, like having breakfast and stuff together, mm-hmm. or like his jaunts in the holodeck. But the fact that he sat down with the crew and realized, I should have done this a long time ago. I think that's what he says. Yeah. That is like one of the most powerful lines in the series. And I think that kind of sums up his character flaws, because it's almost like an insecurity, like I have to put on this face to be the captain of this crew. But also he's almost pushed his friends to the side for the sake of his career. I don't take it that way necessarily. I think it's more of he knows that things will function better if he is not separated. Involved. Yeah, he thinks that a form of separation makes his job run smoother. And for the most part, actually, it does. There are times where basically the crew gets together and they're kind of like over certain issues, they know each other so well that it kind of interferes with the object of the mission. But Picard's always kind of like the man in the middle and the man who can kind of make decisions and everybody respects it.
He's the mediator.
Yeah, he's totally the mediator. And I think his job does technically function better if he doesn't get that personal with the crew. But in the end, when he chooses to, it's like, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this is right. Because if he can separate, he can get to know the crew but still separate himself, he can do his job super well. But when he really knows them and gets to know them, his own life gets fulfilled more.
Right.
And that's ultimately what the show's all about. The fact that the themes of this show are so difficult for Dakota and I to put into words should show you how great of a show it is.
Or how dumb we are.
Yes, either or, actually.
Yeah, what is it? Are we just really dumb?
Or is the show really good? Dumb?
Let's talk a little bit about Will Riker, another career man. One we talked a little bit about Riker briefly when we were talking about Deanna Troi. And boy, how strong was his drink?
It was 2 shots of Patron.
That's enough for tonight. All right, Will Riker. He doesn't change all that much throughout the course of the show. He also has episodes where he realizes his life could have turned out a lot different.
I think he does change, though.
Tell me how.
We see it in the previous Will. I don't know. What does he change his name to? Like Tim or something?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he changes his name eventually because he's kind of like an alternate universe. Will, but I think...
But that was the Will before we even got the Will in the first episode.
Yeah, but it shows kind of a difference. Like, I mean, no, you do, because he has the chance so many times to rise.
That's an interesting point, actually. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
We meet Will, kind of like in an alternate way through like post-Will. Could you call him
pre-Will?
Like pre-Will, like Post Malone, like old Will, and then there's now Will.
Pre-Will and now Will.
Now Will chooses his career, or doesn't choose his career. There's so many chances where he could rise above Picard. He can take his own, captainhood, I guess, in another ship. But he loves Picard. He loves his job. He loves where he is. I think that's the biggest difference that we see. He starts to appreciate who he is today over who he wants to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, and that's a good way to put it too. He appreciates where he's at right now, and he doesn't want to prematurely take the captain's seat on another vessel.
Yeah. When
he realizes his friends, his mentors, and potential love interests are still on this ship, and he sees some value in it. He doesn't actually ever explicitly say why, but we as the audience understand that we don't want this group to be broken up. At least not yet. They haven't grown enough to do so. And he subconsciously, for whatever reason, decides the same basic fact.
Yeah, but it's not just about the facts. It's about Jean-Luc Picard and how he loves him as a captain and loves serving him.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think the entire
there are
crew
times where
loves him.
Literally, like that guy, I don't remember his name, comes onto the Enterprise and it's like, no wonder why Will Riker hasn't taken his own captain of a ship. And it's like, well, no, it's because he genuinely loves it here. He's happy here. Imagine that, like the strength that it takes to be happy in the now.
Right.
You're happy today versus what could be. That's really strong. It's really great.
Let's talk a little bit about Geordi before we wrap this up.
Geordi.
He's another... There's so many, career men on this ship, but he's really, the best of the best in terms of being in the engineer's seat. And I don't think he was always in the engineer's seat. He definitely wasn't in the start of the series. I just remember that Natasha Yar... for whatever reason. That's a great character.
What's up with that? Natasha Yar. We had that whole thing where she was going to be what was she going to be?
The daughter on the Romulan
What's up with that? Where'd she go? What happened?
They never brought her back. I was kind of hoping in for whatever reason in the last episode
happened?
they would bring her back, but they didn't. They did bring Natasha Yar back actually, or the actress,
they
I
did,
forget her
but
name. But not the character that they introduced a few seasons prior to that. Let's go back to Geordie LaForge. I love Natasha Yar. I think that's such a fantastic...
She was great while she lasted.
Actually,
no. She annoyed me for a bit, and then she died, and I was like, man, I miss her.
The fact that she kept being brought up as someone that the crew genuinely appreciated was awesome.
Yeah.
The fact that she wasn't just forgotten.
Yeah, totally.
That was awesome. The fact that Data had that little... of his few possessions, that little memorial plaque. That's super cool. Let's go back to LaForge. LaForge is a workaholic. I would say probably the biggest workaholic on the ship that we see. He's always, complaining to Reg about being on time. He's always he seems like he'd be the first one there and the last one to leave.
Speaking of Reg, though, doesn't Reg, when he says it, seem like discriminatory? It's like, Reg, come on. It's almost like negative connotation, Reg.
But that's it's interesting because he's a character I don't think I would like.
In person, yeah, it would be tough.
But seeing
but
that
we're both
character,
kind of slackers, so
yeah, he would not like us. Basically, he would treat us like Reg, which is why I take it personally whenever he's like, "Reg, come on."
Yeah, because he would be like, "Dak, come on," or like, "Jen, come on." Yeah, it would be super annoying.
So that's our stance on LaForge. But I mean, he's a great character. I love he's another character kind of. On the same vein of in our last video, we talked about Toph Beifong being a character whose blindness not only doesn't define them as a character. It's a character trait, but it doesn't define them. But it does put them in a position where their disability can push them to be better than what they could have potentially been otherwise. And I think that's a really cool... I just think that's a cool character type. And I think he nails it very awesomely.
Yeah, his disabilities obviously aren't his weakness. However, he shows his humanity in other ways, like his shyness towards women and the way that he clearly wants to be in a relationship, but he can't kind of manage that. It's too much for him. Right. So I think when you see a character's weakness so bluntly as we see Geordie's, it's like you can't even hate on him. It's like, oh my god, you poor thing, let me help you. His flaws are way more interesting than his strengths. In any office setting, Geordie would do great. He would be awesome. But then when you see oh my god, he literally cannot talk to a woman. It's great.
It's frustrating. And
the only woman that he talks to is one that's totally out of reach for him. So it's
it's a hologram. We really love Star Trek: The Next Generation. We can honestly keep talking about it. But let's talk a little bit about what we want from Star Trek going forward. We only have a few minutes left on the camera. But we started Deep Space Nine per recommendation from everyone that I asked. Say, just move on to Deep Space Nine. Don't worry about the movies. Don't worry about the original series. We've been watching a little bit of the original series too, before we go to bed or whatever.
I love it.
But Deep Space Nine has been fun. And I think on our next video, we'll talk about Deep Space Nine Season 1 and give that a little review as well. So if you want to see that video, please be sure to give us a subscribe and like this video if you haven't already. And obviously, thank you so much for watching up to this point. Let us know your thoughts. What are your favorite episodes in Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Live long and prosper!
Okay, bye guys.
Bye guys.